What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today we have a very special episode about to happen. Resident Evil is one of those franchises that is pretty polarizing. You're either a huge fan or you don't like the type of games at all. Me personally, I've been playing them since I was a kid, and one of the games in particular that holds a very special place in my heart is Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 for me has been purchased on GameCube, PlayStation, Nintendo, PC, and I bought it on Quest 2 as well because the Resident Evil 4 VR just dropped this last October 21st, and honestly, man, I've been having a blast. Resident Evil 4 is going to be one of those games that changed the series in a way that I hadn't seen before. This one was more action oriented, there were no fixed camera angles, and it focused more on the skills of your gunplay, which was different, which usually can be bad if you change up the formula that much, but these guys nailed it. With Resident Evil 4, there was different inventory systems, enemies we'd never seen before. It was a whole lollapalooza of shit we just absolutely couldn't get enough of. So with me hearing this rumor that there was going to be a Resident Evil 4 VR remake, I literally crap my pants. This is a game I know in and out, back and forth, like the back of my hand. I know where everything's at. I know where all the items are. I could speed run it if I really wanted to. And to be able to walk into that world and be inside of it, honestly, has been something that I will never forget. This game, for me, has a lot of ups, a couple fall flat moments, but overall, to me, it was a great VR remake. All right, guys, so jumping right in, this is an actual overhaul of the entire game in VR made by the company Armature, who is a company that specializes in making VR games. What they did is updated every texture and everything that had to do with how the game looks for the first time since it's been out. The game did get an HD version, but none of the textures were messed with. It just increased the resolution. What these guys have done since the first time this game's ever been released is redid textures and made them better with today's technology, because the game has remained untouched for most of the time. This is not a teaser, this is not a filler, this is the entire game in full in VR. It plays exactly the same as far as enemies, damage, and weapons go. The few differences I've noticed in VR so far have definitely been the inventory system. It is the same case where you can rotate and move stuff. It just has a few different options to make it a little bit more VR friendly, like an overflow tray and things like that. The menu, actually, I'm a big fan of. They kept it very close to the original, like when you're in your inventory. However, when you're doing the treasures and keys, they open up a section that looks like a storage room, which you can pick your items when you go to sell them or combine them, which I think was a really cool touch. The gunplay itself feels really good and natural. Having that red laser, classic in Resident Evil 4, to help your aim translates perfectly over to VR. The damage is about the same as far as they go. The difference is reloading. Reloading is gonna take the same amount of time. However, you need to manually reload your weapons. So that takes pulling out a clip, putting it in the gun, racking that round, and then starting to fire, which is a little different than just pressing the button on the game. There are a few ways that they let you play the game as far as accessing your items while you're in the middle of the game. One of them is the classic VR, where your pistol's on your hip, your shotgun's on your shoulders, and your combat knife's on your chest. You just reach for those things like they're on your body and grab them. I experimented with this at first, however, it didn't really fit that Resident Evil 4 classic feel that I have come to know and love, and it just felt like it was a VR game with a RE4 skin. There is a quick select option that you can do instead, where you have a weapon in one hand and you have a quick select menu. So you hold the left button on your left controller and swap between items with the stick. This to me felt a little bit more organic and felt a little bit more natural as far as playing how Resident Evil 4 would feel, because you're limited to the animations of this. So when you're playing the game on a console, in order to switch in between weapons, you'd have to go to the inventory, manually select it, then it will equip. To do your knife, you had to hold a certain button. With the VR one, where you reach for your hip and shoulder, that didn't feel like I was playing Resident Evil. With the quick select method, I definitely feel like it's a better method if you played the game before. On top of that, one of the cool features they added is your saving. As it is in Resident Evil, the classic way to save is a typewriter. Resident Evil 4's typewriter is really awesome as far as like the sounds and nostalgia go for me. And being able to type on that typewriter in VR with my hands, I don't know, for some reason it was a little feature that really worked for me. Another thing that I really like about the game is when you go to vault, jump down, or go through things, The action actually just takes you through it in first person. It doesn't slide to a cutscene to show you Leon hopping over the fence. You're actually hopping over it. When you stun an enemy and you go to do a kick or a suplex, you are zoomed out just a second so you can watch Leon's character do the action, and then you're put back in. And I feel like that's a really immersive way to get you to see the action of the kick, but still keep you from watching a cutscene and then flashing back to the game. If this is your first time playing Resident Evil 4, do not play it on VR. I repeat, do not play it on VR. Please go play the console version first, enjoy that thoroughly, and then experience it in VR. The only reason I say this is because Resident Evil 4 has an adaptive system with difficulty. So say there's 7 enemies in a room, you die 3 times, and on your 4th reload of trying to beat that room, there'll be 5 enemies. That game keeps you in the flow, so it doesn't make it too hard nor not hard enough. But there are certain difficulties that would fix that. So maybe there was Professional, which is a difficulty on console that maxes out every enemy type, no matter how good you're doing. With Resident Evil 4 VR, there is a easy and a normal mode. I do not know if they're going to add a Professional, but coming from someone who's played the game constantly, Professional is really the only way to run it truly. You experience the game at its fullest, and I'm thinking this VR is just going to be the normal adaptive system, which is causing this to be a little easy for me. However, I've played the game a bunch, so it might be that too. There are a few parts of this game that are different in VR that take away from the experience on console, such as when you fight the El Gigante. When you attack him and go to damage him, there is a monster that comes out of his back. You run on his back and you knife with a quick action event. On console, you have to mash a button to do this, which only gives you about maybe 3, maybe 4 slashes per mount. So that usually takes you about 4 to 5 mounts to kill him. In VR, when I went up and ran on top of the monster, when I went to slash, I have my hand, so I can move it as fast as I want. I spammed slashing that parasite on his back so much, I took him down in 2 mounts. The fight was a breeze. There was a bug in the VR game where you are defending the house from the swarm of ganados. I moved the shelves in front of the windows, and for the entire half of that fighting area, nothing was happening because they couldn't get through the windows. Because those blockades that I put in front of it are supposed to break after a few hits. They weren't breaking. They also removed voice lines and a few other things for censorship's sake, as well as changing a few of the dialogue options just to fit the VR, I guess. However, like I said, this experience is way different when you have that. Along with the controls, it's easier to move, navigate in VR while you're attacking or looting. In Resident Evil 4 console, you can't strafe, you have to stop to shoot. In VR, you can move and shoot. It's nothing. You can literally just walk, shoot, and keep advancing through the area. Resident Evil 4, you don't have that luxury on console. So the experience of being swarmed by enemies and defending yourself is way less hectic and a lot more manageable, which is part of the fun with Resident Evil 4. There are areas of the game that put you in a panic and a frenzy, and you have to get out of them. And you have to use that by mastering the game's controls. With VR, it feels a little bit more meh. I can just run and gun and max pain my way through the game. So that's something that's a little bit bothersome to me. Overall, I would say this game is definitely something worth picking up. I bought my Quest 2 just to play it, strictly because you're getting Resident Evil 4 remastered. To be honest, this is the closest we've gotten. This may be the closest we'll get for that. And if you've played the game before, this will be surreal being in the game you've known and loved for so long. On top of that, if you're a new player, it's still gonna be fun. Like I said, I suggest you play the console version first and experience it that way, so you can appreciate the VR for what it is, because it is a bit of a different game. Interactable Resident Evil 4 is absolutely nuts. Wielding my knife and being able to slash it in the air while enemies are on the ground feels so good. And I can't tell you how much of a blast the shotgun is either. Pumping people with lead, then having to reach in your pocket and load some shells and rack that shell back in there feels good. I feel really badass reloading my gun and killing ganados. Resident Evil 4 is a Quest 2 exclusive. It is only available on the Quest 2 store with the same headset. I would suggest going out to get that if you haven't already. It's super cheap for a good headset that you can connect to a PC if you have one. And as always, it was wonderful having you here. More horror games and other stuff is coming on the channel soon. Like and subscribe to see more like this. I think we'll do some more reviews here coming in the future. Other than that, I'm out of here. Blue Jay, drop the outro.